Hi, y'all.
Hello, this is Pavel.
Yes, hello, we can hear you.
I want to get people like Tilly involved because the country and western road shows and
Hi. Oh, they're all waiting.
Hey, how you doing?
any organizations.
We're doing good.
within that area within Texas that are interested in.
Just wait.
Let me know,
Hold on 1 second, you guys. We're going to put on mute for a moment.
Unfortunately. Good morning or good afternoon, Ukraine. This is John Boerstler and the Combined Arms team. What's up, guys? How are y'all? Thanks for joining.
Good. How are you?
Oh, good. We're doing real well. Do you have? Let me turn my volume off, and then can you turn your volume on?
Yeah, it's on.
Why are we not hearing them? Can you guys say something real quick so we can make sure we can hear you?
Hey, John.
I'm set.
Right here.
All right, good to go. Yeah, so thanks for joining us, guys. We have this is our third webinar series that for our kind of shared learning project between the Houston experts, the regional experts here in Houston, of which a couple of guys are joining physically, and then we'll have some folks on remotely here later for you guys to learn more about social events and family support services that we have here in the area. So feel free to ask questions along the way. We're going to have a structured format that Bryan Escobedo will be leading, and but like I said, feel free to ask away throughout the entire evolution. These guys have a lot of great experience and knowledge and skill in this arena, and we hope you get a lot out of the some of the programmatic ideas that they've done in the social events and family support field. So with that, I'll turn it over to Bryan Escobedo, and thank you guys again for joining. Appreciate it.
Good.
Well, hello, everybody. How are we doing today? Good to see y'all.
Hi.
So, hey, I see you live from Denmark over there, my good buddies. Good to see your face. But, hey, so I just want to briefly talk about what we're going to speak about today, which is both camaraderie, that's social events, and also support services for families. And both of those are very, very important. They're kind of the intangibles that tie everything together. So first and foremost, camaraderie. So when you get out of the military, you might go back to your hometown. You might go to a new town. But when you're in the military, you make these strong bonds with people that you would give your life for, people that you trust with your life. And that sort of bond, a person seeks that sort of intimacy with another person. And sometimes it's hard to find that if they're not military veterans, if they haven't been what you've been through. So it's important when you first get out of the military to reestablish those sorts of relationships with familiars, people that have been there and done what you've done, or get what it's like to have gone through what you've been through. So here in Texas, what we've done is we've formed all these wonderful social events and programs so that veterans can get to meet each other. And some of the results of that are that they network, they scaffold, which is they help each other up and help each other further up the path. They also help each other professionally, networking into jobs, mentoring each other, and just really showing everybody the ropes. Because when you go back to your society from the military society, there is a bit of a culture shock there, and staying in contact with people that are familiar to you really helps to offset that. Also, there's that familial bond of that common thread of serving the military that really ties it together. Second thing I want to speak about is family support. So there's a saying that says that when a soldier deploys to the front line, the whole family deploys with them. The grandmother, the mother, the brothers, the sisters, the spouse, everybody that knows you deploys with you to the front line. And if they lose you or you're maimed or injured, then they all feel that equally, right? And so that soldier, he or she comes back to their home, back to their family, and they may be different. They may have been shaped by war. They may have been affected by war. And now the family is having to deal with that because they go back into their tribe. They're planted back into their family unit, either perfectly fine, slightly damaged, or very damaged. And now the family has to take that impact and work together to fix that person or help to love them and fix them. It's very important for that reason that we offer solutions, counseling solutions, that we offer knowledge, that we offer services to families as well, because they're also suffering with what the veteran is going to suffer through. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and open the conversation now. We're gonna send it over to, let's see here. Well, college years, and we'll send it to Kevin Doffing. Wow. We're going to let Kevin Doffing take the floor here, and he is the executive director of the Lone Star Veterans Association, which is the largest post 9/11, that's Iraq and Afghanistan, veterans organization in Texas. So here he is, Mr. Kevin Doffing.
Hey everybody. Oh, good up to see y'all. Hey, so like Bryan said, I'm the executive director of Lone Star Veterans Association. We focus on community building program, which means we run a lot of socials, which means we start off running a lot of beer busts. John asked me to talk a little bit about our mistakes and how we've gone through this. Obviously, as you're building up a lot of different social aspects around this, the easiest thing is to just, have everybody gather at a bar. There's a lot of different evolutions that go into that where we start getting into more of the peer mentoring as resources become available and best practices are known. You're going to see a lot of common requests, common expectations, common problems. And you're going to see people who've tried different things and can turn people away from resources that are bad or don't work and turn people towards resources that are really good. Bryan Escobedo is actually a great example of how we built up a community leader program that embeds peer mentors into our programming. So typically what we've done over the last 8 years is we had a lot of really great staff that would run our events and be these program matter peer mentor experts that were walking resource referrals portals. But what we've now tried to do is systemize it into a volunteer program so that we can scale it bigger. But getting into families is always a challenge. As you start to build up some of your programming, you're going to see that there are people that will continually do it. We call them the career veteran. Sometimes they're there for the free stuff. And there's always going to be an element of that, and it's not a bad thing. It's just something that you deal with. But you do have to stay tight on what you're looking for and how you're making an impact in people's lives. As you're trying to measure the impact of running socials, obviously testimonials is the biggest thing. We have kind of stumbled onto active membership. Because we're trying to be a community and not just a club, we want to make sure that we don't have a membership of 5,000 and a participation level of 50. Because then we just kind of have a moniker of we're the largest organization in the state, but then we have the smallest participation. So one of the things that we look at is trying to find where people are coming out more than 3 times a year. We find that if you're coming out more than 3 times in a calendar year, you've bought into the messaging, you're getting a lot out of it, you're going to a lot of things. And then the more you can grow that, obviously, you'll make sure that you're getting into new people who haven't been out for a while. Life gets busy, and you start driving a lot of programming towards where people are in their lives or in their careers. So having professional networking events, having family events, it's all about bringing these people together, and that'll lead to a lot of the different things that you're finding that you can start building on with direct services. But that's really it. A couple of screw-ups that we've had. You got to maintain really tight control, especially when you start throwing alcohol into the mix with a bunch of veterans. Things can get wild. So you just have to be able to put some handrails on how things are handled, that the people operating the event don't drink too much. You always have to kind of stack multiple wins on it. So if it's a career event, you still have to have some little freebies or something to entice people to come out. And as long as that's not the main draw, but just something to be a tipping point when they're on the fence about coming after work or something like that. But as we do some of these things, we start to identify other problems and opportunities to help people make an impact in their lives because we got them to a social. So I don't know about y'all's experience, but for us, the biggest challenge is a veteran that doesn't want to be found and won't ask for services. That's our highest at-risk population. And so to try and stop being in crisis mode all the time when somebody finally does ask for help or is at the end of the line or something bad has happened to the family, we try to entice them out to these social events so that we can interdict and get involved in their lives and get them resources that they need before it becomes a crisis. So we're trying to focus on prevention.
Does anyone have any questions for Kevin? Kevin, if you real quick, while Mike's coming over here, will you tell him like how many events you guys run, how you tie in social events with family support events?
Sure. So we focus our event structure on 3 different events. First, we focus on careers, then families and individuals. Like I said, the happy hours are the easiest. But with career networking, we run a monthly hour-and-a-half job luncheon where we bring employers that are passionate about hiring veterans, and then we bring in the veterans that are either in career transition or in school and need to start building their professional network or just looking for another job. And we get a lot of really great success out of that. Typically, our veterans will receive 3 to 4 introductions from the other veterans or the other employers. We have a 20% interview rate and a 15% placement rate from the event, which is a little bit higher than what a job fair generates, but with a more engaging development of your network. The family programming, bringing the families out, we've always found that there's a lot of talk about families, but actually bringing the spouses out and having siloed events that are focused on, female veteran moms, spouse moms, and then having a lot of different picnics and things like that. We get a lot of great buy-in with the community and people to come out and feel like they're a part of something. Again, like Bryan said, when you lose that camaraderie. And we focus on affinity groups. So we all have this shared military experience which defines us and brings us together. And we think that overlapping other affinities brings those in, whether it's your profession, the fact that you're a spouse and so is a spouse. We can go to deeper levels of conversation and relationships quicker by doing that.
How many people are involved with LSVA actively and passively?
So on the staff side, we have 3 staff. We have a budget of under $300,000. We have an active volunteer base of about, I'd say there's probably 50 active volunteers that are volunteering multiple times. We have a cadre of 9 community leaders that run our events, run a event once a month. So we're operating 12 to 15 events a month in town, operated by either staff or these community leaders, these volunteers. And we do concurrent training with them. Our active member numbers, we're over 120 at this point in the year. And so by doing the affinity groups, which is something we just started doing in the past 6 months, we've seen a 3 times higher engagement level from our membership base.
Does anyone have any questions? You want to ask them for questions and stuff?
Yeah. Let's see here. We got a question. The question from Pavel is, are there any staff members who monitor the happy hour meetings?
Yes.
Explain that.
So we typically will have a staff member at the happy hours until such time as the community leader has gotten their feet underneath them and they can go run it by themselves. We have an ongoing monthly lunch and learn and then an after hours training session where we go through all different things, active listener, facilitation, semi-annually we do mental health first aid training. But the first 2 to 4 events that a volunteer will run will be monitored by a staff member to make sure that they go well. How do I aggregate the events and where can they be seen? So all of our events are posted on our website. We use a CRM, a client relationship management system like Salesforce that aggregates all of the participation, so I can tag people as they come to multiple events, and then I can start seeing what's an active member look like overall in the organization as a volunteer, and inside the family programming. And we just do sign-in sheets whenever we have people show up. The challenge is getting everybody to sign in. When you're at a bar or even a big picnic, getting everyone to sign in is a constant challenge. Because if I don't know that they were there, I might have a highly active member, but if they've missed signing in 3 times, that hurts my metrics. So I'm kind of a bulldog about people signing in. It's kind of a pain. But everything's listed on our website. So like if you went to our website, lonestarveterans.org, there's an events tab, and you'll see all the different events that we're putting on.
All right. Do we have any more questions for Kevin Doffing? Yeah, the question is, are they connected to Combined Arms? Yes, they are definitely connected to Combined Arms.
They're connected. We have a way that the Combined Arms calendar scrapes ours, but I got to do a better job of updating because it doesn't pull the pictures. It pulls the event, but it doesn't pull like the description. So that's one of the challenges I have. And
Kevin, another question from Lai. How many veterans do you reach or support each month?
It depends. In April, in one day, we touched almost 300 veterans, which was a lot. Yeah. So, just having them come out to events one thing, but then trying to follow up and not just have an output but an outcome. But typically we'll have 250 to 300 for a month. Recently, last year, we were averaging about 120 a month, and we've kind of doubled that. But what we're seeing is a higher concentration of recurring attendance this year than we did last year.
Good to go. All right. Anything else for Mr. Doffing?
Oh, and we're only in Houston. I mean, we're Lone Star Veteran Association. We're a Texas organization, but I mean the numbers that we're talking about are basically relegated to just the Houston area, which there's 300,000 veterans here in Houston, which I think is the same as the Ukrainian population for veterans.
Mm-hmm.
So there's
for ATO war veterans only.
Oh, ATO veterans only. So we're able to hit a higher density inside of that post 9/11 demographic. That's our main target, the recent veterans. That's about 45 to 50,000. Our membership base is 1 in 12. So 1 in 12 of that base is members with LSVA.
Excellent.
This is Bender. Could you talk a little more about your career advice?
Like Eyer?
Someone had a question?
No, this is a statement.
I heard of. Okay.
I heard of. Did we miss any questions for Mr. Doffing?
I'll be right back.
No? Okay.
Yeah, this is Bender. Can you hear me?
So I want to introduce Mike Eyer with the Wounded Warrior Project. Some of you may have heard of the Wounded Warrior Project. They're one of the larger and more successful veteran organizations in the entire United States, especially for the post 9/11 generation. But Mike Eyer served both in the British military and also the U.S. military. So I'll turn it over to him. He's going to talk about his role in running socials and all the stuff the Wounded Warrior Project does.
Have we got a lot of time? Hi guys, I'm Mike. Wounded Warrior Project is a national organisation, and we do reach overseas as well. We have offices in Germany, and we interact with organisations like Help the Heroes in the United Kingdom. But I'm going to bring it right back down to perspective from what I do and what we do here in Houston. You've heard from Lone Star veterans. We're similar in our actions to what they do. A lot of their members are members of Wounded Warrior Project as well. Our focus is to connect, serve, and empower. And as part of the connect phase, that's where we come in. My team is an alumni team. and we are responsible for keeping that connection between the warriors, the families, and us, and other organizations that are available out there. You know, everything we have here at the CAC and outside of that. How do we operate? Well, it's a alumni-based, a membership-based organization. So when warriors have the opportunity to sign up or join the organization, which is obviously free of charge, and they give us their information, and we validate they can be a member. And I don't really want to go into that because it's that changes on a daily basis as new issues arise. But basically, they become a member of the organization. And once they're a member, we're now tracking them. So we have a location, we have connect ways, email, telephone, and we start focusing on their needs. And so a lot of the challenges that you're going to have initially, and I've already heard that discussed this morning, is how do we get them out of the house? How do we get them to us? So my job is to create the environment for these guys and girls where they will feel comfortable to come and meet and engage with other warriors. The major healing purpose of this is twofold. One, once they start talking to other warriors where they feel comfortable, they're used to being able to talk to other military people up until they got out the military. Re-engaging is a very hard step for a lot of these guys and girls to do. And so we have to be enticing in what we do. So we dream up ways to get them out of the house and come and join us. We have very successful events, and I'm going to highlight a couple of them. But the purpose is once we get them to an event is to not only engage and network with those other warriors, but also find out their needs. Disability, our Veterans Administration's disabilities is one of the biggest one. A lot of these guys and girls do not understand or know the benefits that that they have open to them. Another part of that is PTSD and TBI help. We're not doctors, we're not nurses, we're not here to fix those problems, but we create an environment where they feel comfortable to at least talk about them and put them on the path to recovery. We have 19 programs and services that Wounded Warrior Projects offer across the country that we can have them engage with other warriors and engage in those programs and services to help them better achieve their goals as they move forward with their lives. And so going back to what we do here in the Houston area, there's 3 of us. We are responsible for Houston. We're also responsible for Austin, Killeen, which is basically east part of Texas, and Arkansas. And so the 3 of us rotate through 3 primarily high impact areas, which is Houston, Austin, Killeen, and Arkansas. We average on about 5 to 10 events each month in those areas. And the events range from female, male, family, and spouse or caregiver events. The caregiver events, I've heard a lot of people talking about their needs, are really to get them away from taking care of their warriors and giving them new tools to help them with those challenges. And so we may do. Is there some questions up there?
No, sorry. Go ahead. We
may do anything from taking them to the spa for the day, or just going out to a painting with a twist event. The family events is similar to what Lone Star Veterans do. We do picnics, we do movie nights, we take them to the zoo, to museums. Recently, we did a couple of events up in Killeen where we did a dinner followed by a movie. So we find time in all of those events to really talk to them, talk about the programs we have that can help them. And we also introduce them to new organizations outside of Wounded Warrior Project. Mission Continues, Team Red, White, and Blue, Lone Star Veterans. So they get a taste for what organizations are out there that can also help them, and not only relying on just 1 or 2. the focus is always to create the engagement. But on the second part of our job is to also encourage them to take initiatives for themselves, empower them to do stuff that they really want to do but not have the nerve to do. So we expose them to different types of events, such as trap shoots, to get them interested in maybe hobbies that they can take on later that they feel comfortable doing and going out on their own and doing. We also encourage them for community service. We bring them in, we may go out and give blankets out to the homeless, or we go and work with Mission Continues and paint some houses or school buildings. But our job is the simple part of the healing process. Once we get them into the event, and so we try and give them as much as information as possible, at the same time not overburden them with too many options. During each event, I have one staff member generally that will be there, and we're really there to make sure the event goes in the right direction. We do not allow, or should I say, we do not supply alcohol at any of our events, but they're all grown men and women, and if they want to buy a beer, we generally let them do that. But we will obviously purchase all the other needs like fruits and so forth. We do have what's called warrior-led events, and similar to what Lone Star veterans do, we will identify warriors that have been in previous peer mentors or have had our training in regards to interacting with warriors, and we allow those guys and girls to put on events for us. One of our we have a couple of successful ones we've had recently in Round Rock, which is out near Austin, where we have a young warrior that leads a breakfast once a month, averaging about 25 to 30 people coming to that each and every month. And that is his opportunity to actually be engaged. He then finds out what needs those warriors have, and he relays that information back to me, where I will then put in referrals to our other programs and services. So we're still interacting, but from afar. Challenging warriors to lead events, you have to make sure, obviously, that you don't want to give them too much and burden them too much, because it can be stressful. And more importantly, if you're doing anything like, let's say, a motorcycle ride, that could also be dangerous. And if the right waivers aren't signed and so forth, someone could get injured, and then we're held responsible. But I've tried everything from skeet shooting to parachuting, sailing events, dinner cruises, anything that will entice them to get out of the house. And I'm going to shut up now because I could go on forever. But as I say, that's just our part of the pie.
All right. Does anybody have questions for Mike Eyer about how this all works, the impact of social events, and anything like that?
Blown them away with freaking knowledge.
And if there is a problem with your microphone, go ahead and write it, do a group chat, and we can see it right away, just in case there is any problem with your microphone. See parentheses. All right. In that case, we're going to go ahead and move on. If you do have, thank you, Mike. Appreciate you. If you do have any questions, please let us know. Next, we're going to be moving on to Nicole Mendoza with the Yellow Ribbon Fund. Let me go ahead and set that up.
You want to address the question to Kevin?
Oh, yeah. We did have a question earlier for Kevin Doffing about, let's see where it was.
Thanks, man.
Okay, so Kevin Doffing, we had a question about how we do the career coaching, how it works.
So we started off just doing a simple luncheon. It was just bringing employers that are interested in hiring veterans together with veterans, because one of the challenges we've seen is with a job fair. And I don't know if y'all run job fairs, but are familiar with them. I think Ly's been out to one here, so he could elaborate on it. But I mean, essentially, you have an auditorium, you have companies putting up tables and handing out leaflets and accepting resumes and putting them in a stack, and maybe they look at them, maybe they don't. So it's not the most highly effective use of time. Typically, the people that a company sends for a job fair is the lowest level person who's not busy that day. And they're just the gatekeepers. It's very rare that you get a decision maker that can actually make a hire on the spot at a job fair. So there's a big need for, that personal engagement, and oftentimes our veterans aren't trained in how to conduct themselves and tell their story in an interview. So having them just break bread and have in a professional setting, but a casual conversation, the employers get to learn a lot more about the veterans. So that's been really good. What we've found, though, is oftentimes, like you mentioned with career coaching, they don't know what they want to do. And so we've been building a new career coaching program where we're partnering with a for-profit that does career assessments and has built profiles through personality assessments on veterans. And one of the interesting things that the data has been showing through the first couple of cohorts is that veterans have a significantly lower than average career focus. So what that means is, and it kind of correlates to why I think we've seen higher rates of LGBT in the military, is a lot of people, especially in the enlisted side, join the military looking for structure and direction. And they find that in the military, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they have that direction instilled in them when they leave. So what we've found with some of the data is that they lack direction even afterwards. And oftentimes people join college to figure out what they're going to do, but then 4 years later they're graduating and still don't know what to do. So what we're finding is they just need some kind of structured guidance on what they need. And so we provide a 2-hour battery assessment of what they do, what their personality and motivators and risk factors and drivers are. We go through a 4-hour workshop, and then we go into 4 hours of one-on-one coaching to kind of develop a career plan. One of the coaches that's going through us is with NextOp, Cecilia on John's team, and we're just building this thing out right now. But this is an international program that's running in Italy currently with an MBA program there. And one of the higher evolutions that we're looking at doing is doing a cohort approach to veterans that are in transition so that they can come together. And this worked at MBA classes, so it'll be interesting to see if we can get to work in a veteran setting.
What's an MBA?
An MBA is a Master's of Business Administration. So it's a graduate degree following your bachelor's. Good question.
Clarifying. I know what it is. Clarifying for everybody.
Everyone knows it.
Okay. Roger that.
Yeah. So that's kind of where we're going with that. Just trying to, start with where you want to go, developing the skill set, and then putting you in front of the employers with a good resume and some interview skills so you can actually get the job. But oftentimes people start at the end without going through the progression of the earlier two.
Okay. Thank you, Kevin. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Excellent. Okay, so next we're going to be changing the presenter to Nicole Mendoza with the Yellow Ribbon Fund. All right, she's going to speak specifically about caretakers. So let me switch this over to Nicole.
Hello.
All right.
Hi, good morning.
There you go. All right, Nicole, you got the floor.
You can see me. Okay, so I highlighted a little bit in the last webinar about the Yellow Ribbon Fund and some of the programs we have, and one of our main programs is the Family Caregiver Program. And this started several years ago, basically in response to the large number of caregivers and family members who were at Walter Reed Army Medical Center. We're actually based in Bethesda, Maryland, outside of Walter Reed, which is one of the largest military hospitals in the US. And caregiver, we use the term caregiver to refer to the family member, usually a family member, a spouse, a parent, a sibling, a girlfriend, that's there at the hospital with the service member while they're receiving treatment. And we saw that many of them spend months and sometimes years away from their home at the hospitals to be with their loved one while they're getting treatment. So we said, hey, they need their own events and support system while they're there, to focus on themselves, to have time away. There's a lot of stress caring for a loved one, and then also the isolation of being away from their homes for such long periods of time. So we started our family caregiver group and do events every month, specifically for the family member that's there, to give them time to network with each other, to do fun events and whatnot, kind of get away a little bit from the stress of providing around the clock care. So now within the past 1 or 2 years here, we have recognized that once the service members leave the hospitals, that they still face many challenges in the transition period as they return to their hometowns, or they get out of the military and start civilian life somewhere new. And that in a lot of cases, for the most severely wounded and ill, they have caregivers now through the VA system. So those needs are still remaining. So we started to expand our program to different areas of the country with little caregiver hubs, as I like to call them. Basically the same kind of system, a support network. And we've expanded now to locations around the country that have a high wounded veteran population and caregiver population. So Texas, Kentucky, Tennessee, California. I think we have 6 locations now, and we're actively hiring for 7 new coordinators at different locations in the country, to provide those caregiver communities and that support in those areas. So we basically have just seen in these years that we've done our program that having these supports and networks for the family members, the caregivers, it addresses their mental health, which is very important in their caring for the veteran. They need to kind of have that time away from themselves and those networks to provide the best care to their veteran. So some of the events we do, we've kind of learned over time that we really want the focus to be on events for the caregiver specifically. So we do a couple, from time to time that the entire family can come to, that the veterans can come to as well. But we really want the program to be focused on the caregiver. So we do things like spa days, weekend retreats, dinners, coffees. We have up in Bethesda, we have twice a week CrossFit classes that are specifically tailored to the caregivers. So things like that. And then we've also found that really in a lot of cases, the caregiver, the family member, they're the ones who are handling kind of the family business. They keep the schedule for the family. They make sure the veteran gets to their appointments. They manage the household. So they're a gatekeeper of sorts to then engaging with the veteran themselves. So now we're kind of building on the caregiver program, and our new initiative is to, from those hubs, start peer support and outreach groups for the veterans themselves. So we're hiring military veterans specifically to provide that peer support, and they'll start running events for the veteran, specifically kind of building off where we already have our hubs and starting groups there, outreach and mentoring groups, and running monthly events for the veterans. So that's kind of the way we're moving, because we saw how well our caregiver program has been, how successful it's been. So that's kind of the way we're going now. But those are the basics.
All right, Nicole. So, and everybody understands that Nicole is talking about caregivers. That's the people that are taking care of severely wounded veterans or people that have become incapacitated. Does anybody have any questions for Nicole in the program that she's running?
Mm-hmm.
I think Pablo is talking. Is that correct?
Not yet.
Okay. All right. If you guys, I'm going to ask again, does anybody have any questions for Nicole at this time? Let's see. Okay, we have it's just me. Okay. So if you do have any questions for Nicole, please send it in the chat. We'll be sure to communicate over to Nicole. But thank you so much, Nicole. I think what you're doing is awesome. All right.
Yeah.
Let's take it back over here. Okay.
What was that?
Let's see. I think that was Nicole.
I don't like public speaking.
No, thank you so much, Nicole. That was awesome.
Yeah.
We'd love to have you on a little bit longer in case someone does have a follow-up question.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'll be here.
Thanks so much, Nicole.
You're welcome.
Make sure you have the webcam on. All right, everybody can see me, correct?
Yes.
Okay, excellent.
Yes.
All right, next.
Absolutely.
Can you make your way over here, Jason? So Jason Williams, we've known Jason for quite some years now. He's been around from the early days of Lone Star Veterans Association, all this stuff. He works for Family Services in Greater Houston, and as the name indicates, they focus specifically on family, the veterans, and the family of veterans as well. So I'll let him take it away.
I want to make sure I look good.
It's our second bald guy of the day. Do you want to talk? If everyone can also say like where you served and who you served with, that might be helpful as well.
Yeah.
So let's just do that real quick, and then I'll fill in for Mike Eyer.
Yeah, so Bryan Escobedo, I served 5 years in the United States Marine Corps, did explosives, did 3 tours in the Middle East.
Kevin Doffing, Army Infantry. I was a light infantry platoon officer in Ramadi, Iraq, for 15 months in the sand.
And then back to Jason. I served in the Navy and the Army, actually. 1 tour, almost a year and a half. So that's 2 or 3 for some branches.
So, and Mike Eyer, you don't have to turn it. Mike Eyer, who spoke from Wounded Warrior Project earlier, served as Bryan Escobedo alluded to at both the British and the American armies and the U.S. Army. So Mike served over 30 years and retired as a command sergeant major, which is the highest enlisted rank that you can attain in any service. So he's been around a while, and he's very knowledgeable and has a lot of great contacts. So Jason, after you. Appreciate it.
All right. So one thing I'm noticing is we're talking about a lot of social stuff. And just to throw it out front, I'm not coming from that angle at all. We don't do any kind of socials or meetings or anything like that. But what we do provide is some emergency stopgaps that veterans or their families may be facing, things such as homelessness, loss of employment, counseling. We also have some financial budgeting, kind of teach these guys how to budget their money, make their money last. Some people make money, but they're very wasteful. So those are some of the things that we cover. I'll talk about our counseling first. When I first started with this organization 7 years ago, counseling was really their bread and butter. And they've been around for 114 years now. So they're very well-established nonprofit within our community. But with counseling being their bread and butter, they got a huge counseling grant to go out and provide counseling for veterans specifically, and maybe even more important, their families, because you don't get a lot of family stuff here specifically for the veterans. However, they were struggling. So when I got out of the Army, I came along, and I just happened to get this job right about that time. But what I informed them of is you're going to have a hard time getting veterans to come in for counseling. And that's for a few reasons. But number one, just the stigma attached with counseling. Things like if you want to work for the government or be a police officer or things like that, they didn't want to come in for counseling because that's seen as a negative. But also something that my organization did not know is the VA's, payout of disability for things like PTSD and things like that. So, if they were going to seek counseling, more than likely it wasn't going to be with a nonprofit. They're probably going to go to the VA, or they're probably just not going to go. But what I did find out was we were getting a lot of spouses. And so that kind of became the niche because, let's face it, if you have PTSD issues or anger issues, you're giving that to your family. When you come home and you're outraged or you're depressed or whatever, that kind of passes down to your spouse or your kids. So, and what I found out was spouses are much more willing to come in and try to see what's going on than the actual veteran. So one of the other things that we do is an emergency financial assistance program, I guess. So, you have veterans who maybe are coming out of service. We're getting a lot of veterans who are relocating to our area from other states, California, New York. They're having a hard time finding employment. So they're coming down here because Texas is listed as a hotbed to find employment. So, they're kind of using their last dollar to come down here and find a job. Well, when they get down here, guess what? If they don't have a job pretty soon, all of a sudden they're going to, lose their apartment, lose their home. So we get a lot of referrals for what we call financial assistance, and that's to step in and help pay their rent, pay their mortgage for a month or two, just to try to basically buy them some time while we also work with them about finding employment and work with them about being self-sustained. And that's where we work with groups like NextOp, who's out there trying to find jobs for a lot of these veterans. We also have an employment program. When I have a veteran come in, I try to connect them with all of these resources. When you need a job, you need to spread your resume around. You need to get out. It needs to touch as many hands as possible. So that's where a lot of our groups interact with each other, work with each other. We kind of pass people around each other. Some of us do similar things, but some of us also do different things as well. That program also not only helps with rent or mortgage assistance, but also utility assistance. If they're on the verge of having their electricity disconnected or their water disconnected, things like that. So how do we get people, since we don't do socials? Probably most of my people come from the VA, and I'm assuming most of you guys have a VA or something similar to that. When we get out of the military here, most people tend to think, I was a military, I'm a veteran, I can go to the VA for anything. Not really the case. VA is mostly medical, but I was able to build some solid relationships there. So I would say a huge amount of our people come from the VA. Also, these groups that you're hearing about today, Wounded Warrior, NextOp, Combined Arms, all these groups, LSVA, we all kind of send people around to each other depending on what the needs are. I always refer people to LSVA, Combined Arms. I tell them, go over there, get with these groups, because like Kevin was saying, the important thing with the socials are a lot of veterans are not going to talk to a counselor. They're not going to talk to someone they don't think that can relate to their situation and their experiences. That's where the socials come in, because, if you go to a social at LSVA, 99% of us have deployed. So already you're going to have something in common. And it's a lot easier to build camaraderie when you have something in common. So I always refer back to them. And then a lot of times it comes out what the issue really is. So maybe this veteran lost his job and, he doesn't know how he's going to pay rent this month. Him and his family and his kids are going to be evicted. Well, the guys at LSVA, they'll send me back to me because that's something I can help with. So that's just kind of how it works. It's just a huge network, but we all know what each other is capable of doing within their organization. And so that's the huge benefit. We all know each other, talk amongst each other. A lot of us have hung out together outside of this. And it's very important to keep that networking going because, like Kevin alluded to earlier, we have about 350,000 veterans here. But Houston is not really a military kind of place. We don't have a base right here somewhere. So it's very important for us to keep these networks alive and keep them revolving, because that's how we have such a good atmosphere here amongst veterans, because we take the initiative to do it ourselves, because the government here is not going to do it. So we've been able to establish that over the last few years. As far as groups, like I said, we don't do groups specifically for my organization. We don't do groups. We don't have socials. We don't go out and do happy hours or golf tournaments. Now, I go myself. I go to everybody else's event. But as an organization, that's just not something we provide. We provide what's known more as a direct service. In other words, if you come to me with an issue, I'm trying to solve that particular issue. And I mean, one of the biggest issues we have here is employment. I'm sure that's a lot of places. Probably 90% of the people I get need a job, need a better job, don't have a job, and not having a job brings a lot of stress into the family about how are we going to pay things? Are we going to be evicted? Are we going to be homeless? And so basically that's where my organization comes in. We try to prevent that, buy some time by helping them with their rent or their mortgage so they don't necessarily have that concern at this time. And that way we can focus them back on employment and long-term solutions. So in a nutshell, that's it.
Excellent.
No questions? I don't know if that's good or bad, but.
This is Bender. I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I wondered, do you provide financial help, or is it always human counseling help? Somebody goes out and talk with the bank or whatever it is.
It's both, actually. I've talked to many landlords and things like that. I've negotiated down late fees. We are not, I would not consider us a long-term solution. In other words, you may receive financial assistance. Let's just use rent, for example. Let's say I have a veteran who lost their job and now they can't pay their rent. They're looking for a job, but they're also on the verge of being kicked out of their home. What I'll do immediately is try to relieve that stress. So I'll step in and pay a month of their rent. I'm going to send them to Combined Arms, LSV. I'm going to say, let's get a resume going. Let's find you a job. That's more long term. But in the short term, I can help you pay your electricity, pay your rent for this month. If I need to call a landlord or call a mortgage company and try to negotiate some late fees down, I'll do that. I've done that quite often. And so my organization will help cover that, so I can relieve them basically of that stress. It's kind of temporary, but it helps tremendously because now they need to focus on employment. So to answer your question, it's a little bit of both. It is some one-on-one counseling, direction, referral kind of thing, but it also is the financial assistance at the same time. And there may be other issues. A lot of times when talking to somebody, you think it's one issue, but after you talk to them, you find out there's a couple other things going on. So, if we need to get them to a social, to where they can find some camaraderie and maybe some mentorship, we'll work on that. If it needs to be more formal kind of counseling, we'll work on that also, by getting them in to handle that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Do we have any other questions for Jason Williams? Let's see. What?
Family Services of Greater Houston.
I'll send the link. It's familyhouston.org, right? Yes.
You are welcome. All right, ladies and gentlemen, our next presenter is currently finishing up a phone call right now. His name is Jim Elmore, and he's actually a retired Air Force veteran himself, but he works for Hope for the Warriors, which does all kinds of different if you're a combat wounded veteran or if you have any disability related to a combat zone, they can help you in many different ways. A lot of organizations can't. They're a very large organization. They're nationwide. And he's going to be talking about not only their social events, but also their caregiver program. They have the capacity to actually give scholarships for university to the spouses and children of veterans that were killed in combat or severely wounded in combat, which is something not a lot of organizations have the capacity to do. They also have a whole caregiver program where they take care of, they teach the caregiver how to be more effective, even giving them treatment themselves. A lot of different stuff, very similar to the Yellow Ribbon Fund, as you just heard. He'll be the next presenter when he's off the phone. But for right now, we want to open up the floor to questions about any of the presenters or any questions about how camaraderie is used, the benefits of camaraderie, social events, or family support services, any questions at all. Go ahead, we'll open up the floor now.
This is Bender. I have a question, or maybe more general question, if you can hear me. In Denmark, there's a lot of similar initiatives, and I come from another veterans organization where we also try to help veterans, maybe in a slightly different way. But I think what we really, the community struggled with is that a lot of the initiatives actually, not willingly, but unfortunately, maintain veterans in a victimized situation. So there's a lot of social events or their homes where they can live. But I struggle to see that a lot of these initiatives really give people the push they need, like Kevin was talking about career coaching, or Jason was talking about helping them move on, connecting people. So do you experience the same challenge in Houston?
Yeah, so really there are two philosophies of helping a veteran. One is that you give them a handout, and the other one is you give them a hand up. And so I think that they're both necessary because some veterans may need that handout for a temporary fix. Like Jason Williams was talking about, yes, we may pay your rent, but if we pay your rent too many times, then we're crippling you from being successful. and we're pretty much allowing you to become a victim, right? But a hand up, if we instead of paying your rent, employ you at a good company, you might have a low credit score because you've missed a payment, but now you're gonna be able to pay all the rest of your payments because you have a career. That's a hand up. And so they're complementary philosophies, and they're both needed. So we do need that immediate needs assistance, but we also need those long-term solutions like career services, like NextOp does, or like psychological counseling. They can get to the root of why this person is chronically homeless or why they keep losing their job. Really, you can't have one without the other. And like our system of combined arms, it measures the demand for requests. So if we see in one quarter that there are more handout requests, not hand up requests, or in another quarter there's more hand up requests where they just want to get long-term services, it would indicate to us that things are changing, but they're always both present. And I think that it's necessary to have both, but there has to be a way of checking. One of my criticisms about social services or really things like paying bills, all that stuff, is that there's not, from my understanding, a very efficient way to understand whether or not the person is using that system. Just very recently, something called HMIS, which is a system here in Houston that allows you to track anyone who's taking these sorts of long-term alleviation funds. You can kind of see a trend of somebody abusing that and decide to decline to serve them. So that's one system check that exists right now, but there needs to be more of it. It's just a cultural thing, and I agree. It is a bit of a problem. Both are necessary, but it's up to the society to kind of set the standard and also to help the veteran understand this is a temporary fix, not a long-term fix, and we expect you to have a long-term solution. But that's up to the society and the community that veteran lives in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely. I like the hands up and hands out. I like
that.
that.
On that real quick, since that's what I do. I do check that because I'm pretty staunch against not continually helping someone. And I'm not the only program in Houston that does this. I mean, there's only maybe 2 or 3 other ones, but we do kind of talk amongst each other. So if someone comes to me and 1 or 2 other organizations, then we learn that they're just bouncing from organization to organization. And actually, really, in reality, they're crippling themselves because they're going to get cut off. And then what? Well, you've already come to me twice, so you can't come here again. And the other organization is going to tell them the same thing. So I try to just be, I'm upfront with my veterans. I say, look, I can help you this one time, maybe again, depending on the situation, but you're going to have to work yourself out of this. Here are some tools, kind of like Bryan was saying, here are some tools to help you. Let's get with this organization. Let's get with this organization. You either need a job or you put yourself in a situation where you need more income or, whatever you need. A lot of times when they get to us, they're kind of what we call in survival mode. You can kind of tell by the conversation who's kind of playing the game, just trying to get some free rent, and who is really in a situation where they need help. A lot of times the way they come in and they're telling their situation and talking about it, I get a pretty good feel if they're serious or not. But back to what Bryan was saying, there is kind of some checks and balances in place. And yes, you can't just bounce around and get rental assistance from 3 or 4 organizations for the rest of your life. It's not going to happen. So I try to tell them up front, look, we might be able to help you for a couple of months, but you yourself are going to have to get it together. And I just make sure and tell them up front that they need to understand that. So that's kind of where some of that counseling comes into play. Just being direct, I'll help you, but like Bryan said, I'm not giving you handouts. I will give you a hand up. I'll help you this month so you don't have to worry about that. But, in the coming months, you're going to have to get on your feet and be self-sufficient on your own.
All right. Thank you, Jason. Well, our next presenter, Jim Elmore, is just walking into the room. So Jim is with Hope for the Warriors. And I'll let Jim introduce his branch and his service. He actually just retired. So I'll let him introduce himself. And then Jim's going to cover what they do for caregivers, whatever social programs that they have, or camaraderie programs. Take it easy, guys. And also scholarships and things like that they do uniquely for veterans. Go ahead.
Yeah, so as Bryan said, my name is Jim Elmore. I work for Hope for the Warriors. I did 22 years as an Air Force intelligence enlisted, and so now I work directly with Hope for the Warriors as what they call a critical care coordinator. Now, my primary job is to provide immediate needs for those veterans. So things like eviction prevention, shut-off notice prevention, and those kind of programs. At Hope for the Warriors, we believe in what we call the comprehensive cycle of care for the veteran. And so to kind of talk about what Bryan was discussing, we believe that it's the systems that are out there that support that veteran that are so important to bring success to that veteran's well-being. So for us, it's not just the veteran themselves, but it's also their family support. So we do things like caregiver scholarships, spouse and caregiver scholarships. We do teenage mentoring, as far as like peer-to-peer mentoring. This is a time when young men and women are supposed to be dating, learning to drive, do those kinds of things. And when they have a parent at home who may be struggling, it affects them as well. So we're very cognizant of that fact, and we try to bring those families together so that other teenagers can talk to other teenagers. They can understand that what they're going through, they're not the only ones who are going through this at this time. I'll just kind of give you a quick breakdown of our caregiver program. The way our caregiver program works is we have a young lady named Patty Catterer, who is a fellow with the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. What she does is she brings a blog. She has a blog program that she does so that people can go out and listen to her talk about caregiver challenges, as well as some of the latest updates with the VA. And then in turn, she takes that and she also puts it out to a Facebook page, which she has that she brings out to other caregivers and their families so that they can go on and they can have those tools available to them. And, so it may be something as simple as fiduciary responsibilities, helping with financing, because, sometimes these young families, when the veteran, whether it's male or female, kind of fall from that leadership position within that family, module, then the other family members have to step up. So we provide, some training in those kinds of areas, fiduciary support, something as simple as paying bills, financial counseling, credit card, those kinds of things, to much greater traumatic injury support, healthcare support, where they can get that information, who they can talk to with those nurses, and get what they need from not only the psychological piece, but the physical piece as well. And then in turn, to supplement that, we actually go out, because we're a national organization, we will hold caregiver support wellness courses. And those kind of travel around. We actually have one coming up next week here in the Michael E. DeBakey Center in Houston. And we bring these family members together, and we actually have people come in. They do things like yoga. We talk about wellness. We talk about everything from simple things like diaphragmatic breathing, how to help kind of relax themselves and kind of relieve some of that stress, to other things like art therapy. Just the overall wellness package, because for us, self-care is very important. If you're not taking care of yourself, then you can't take care of that veteran. And that's kind of it. I mean, I'm not sure if there was something more specific that you wanted me to talk about.
No, I mean, I think that there's a lot of, I think the major theme here today for the social events and family support is there's a lot of different complementary programs and services that are offered in addition to the official channels, and sometimes whether that be the family caregiver or the family members of service members, to get them out and get them re-engaged with other veterans, some will almost always lead to them seeking official services, be that employment or mental health or enrolling in the healthcare administration or getting benefits advice. So I think that's the major theme, is we really wanted to show how impactful social events and family support really and truly is on getting veterans engaged with the official programs and services that are available through the government and through NGOs in each community. And I know that you guys in Ukraine, you have a lot of experience in really engaging veterans when they come back home, socially and through peer support mechanisms and through family support on the unofficial side, and you're working to build and strengthen the social connectivity and the family support systems in the communities that many of your soldiers are returning to every day. I think Pizza Veterano and like and if, as effective as that is kind of a flagpole or a stake in the ground for veterans to return to is really critical. It's something that we didn't necessarily have in our community as a place to return to. So I think that what you guys are building around that social interaction for veterans and families is critically important. With that, do we have any other questions? Ina had a question here.
We have one from Pavel, one from Ina.
Okay.
Pavel was first. And so Ina has a question for Jim, but Pavel was first. So we're going to ask Pavel's question first. Pavel's question was, so this is going back to the financial assistance piece. And the question was, if a veteran is asked for financial assistance, is he most likely to get it? And then a follow-up question, but self-support is the key in the long run, correct? And so the likelihood of a veteran getting financial assistance all depend. There's many factors. This isn't just a national fund, they're local funds. And so, for instance, the county that the veteran lives in might have certain resources, but if they live outside of that county, they may have less resources. That money may run out very quickly, is given typically once a year to whatever organization gives that money out. So if there's money, they might get it. We're very lucky with that resource because there is a lot of money poured into that, because there is a whole, like I said, there's two philosophies. There's the handout, hand up. The people that believe in the handout philosophy just want to give to this pot of money because they believe it'll go to the right people. They don't know whether or not it does. So yes, it is likely that a veteran, if it's their first time, if they're in an emergency situation and they give enough lead time before the bill is due, that they may get that resource. It typically takes anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks to go through the check and to actually get that person paid. And they don't pay the veteran, they pay the institution they owe money to, or the landlord, whoever it might be. But yes, Pablo, the key to all this is long-term solutions. And just one caveat to that, a lot of these veterans coming back, they get out and they do just fine. They go to college, they get a job, or they go to trade school, they get a job. The ones we see are ones that haven't quite figured out, which is somewhat of a minority of veterans. Most of them just get out, they rush through life, they rock and roll, and there's no problems. And sometimes those people in those high positions, they're like, for instance, a lot of people here in Houston are in the oil and gas corporations. So they're doing a lot of layoffs. A lot of people are losing their jobs. These are people that got out, they went at it hard, they made their money, but their industry is firing everybody. So now they're coming back here because they want to continue to engage in career services. So it all depends. But yes, I do personally believe that it's long-term solutions and long-term self-care to solve the problem. Does that answer your question, Pablo?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. We had a question. I'm going to read Ina's question for Jim. And Ina's question was, what about specific focus programs meant for the veterans' wives, not as caregivers, but wives expecting a beloved hero and meeting an alien when they come home from war? So the question is, what sort of meeting classes or anything?
Yeah, and that's a good question. Because there are changes that happen. We also utilize licensed clinical social workers to be able to provide that psychological piece so that we can sit down and discuss some of the things that you may be facing when, your spouse comes back, or the veteran comes back from the war or the conflict. A lot of times there's some things that are very simple, as a spouse, maybe for the first time, they're actually being able the ones to provide all the bills, paying all the bills in the house. They're taking over an area of responsibility that they've never had before, so they're empowered now. They've developed over the last year and a half these skills that have empowered them. So now when the veteran comes back, the veteran immediately goes, hey, I'm going to start taking this stuff back over. So sometimes you can have a little strife there simply because, there's a sharing of power that now has to be readdressed, not just the actual experiences. So it's very important for us that we look at the whole kind of family, support group. And so that's why we utilize licensed clinical social workers so that we can have people, we can do actual family counseling, we can do individual counseling, and we can do, some of the like even the children, doing childhood counseling as well. I think that answered your question.
Yeah. And just quickly, Ina, so there are services to give spouses classes on preparation to reunite with their veteran coming back from the front lines. A lot of while you're in the military, a lot of times spouses will be alerted of these sorts of classes before their spouse comes back from the war. So our military is fairly decent. It's a matter of whether or not the spouse takes advantage of those classes. And when they get out, there are definitely resources here in Houston and all around the United States that can give spouses those sorts of classes. But once again, they have to opt into participating in those courses. So, but I don't want to be too long because we have Cress Clippard. He just got back from a meeting. Cress Clippard is a local lead here for the Travis Manion Foundation. And so, Cress, today we're talking all about the topic today. It's camaraderie and also spouse services. You guys do some awesome stuff for spouses of fallen heroes, and also you do a lot of stuff with continuing service for military veterans. So if you'll come on this way so they can see you, I'll turn it over to Cress Clippard, Mr. Hollywood.
Thanks, Jim. Hey, how's everybody doing? There's breakfast tacos there if you're hungry.
Hi, Chris.
Grab one, dude. So I work for the Travis Manion Foundation, and the program that I wanted to highlight today is our survivor services. So we work with the surviving family members of fallen heroes, and we are but our service is a very specific niche. So we don't directly offer crisis support. We're not there at the time of the tragedy. We come in a long time after, usually about 18 months. So 18 months or longer after someone's experienced a loss in the military, we work with those families and we send them on expeditions. And they go somewhere where there's a group of people in need, like we go to Guatemala or the Dominican Republic or places with a lot of poverty, and they build a house for the homeless. So they do some service, and they do the service and dedicate it to their loved one that they lost. So it gives them a sense of meaning. It gives them a sense of purpose, and they build relationships with other people that have experienced the same loss along the way. That's our primary survivor service. We also use survivors as mentors to young people here in Houston. They go into high schools and they speak about character. And again, that's a sense of purpose and meaning.
All right, you want to talk about this? What you guys do you talked about for spouses? What about talked also about what you guys do with veterans to continue service?
Yeah, so we consider ourselves a veteran empowerment organization as well. So we are continuing to ask things of veterans. People join the military to serve, even though the military doesn't always make a lot of money. Even though it's hard to be in the military, they join to serve. And when they get out, that doesn't necessarily go away. They have that need to have that, again, meaning, purpose, that engagement. So we provide that in the form of going into high schools and mentoring kids. So we believe that that our service members are great examples of character, and at the same time, there's a problem with young people that don't have a lot of good character. So we pair up the two problems and help them solve each other by training our veterans to teach character to young people.
Outstanding. All right. Does anybody at this time have questions for Cress Clippard about the Travis Manion Foundation or anything that this program does? All right. All right. Thank you, Cress. At this time, we're just going to go ahead.
Can we have Shane speak about the TAPS program?
Yeah, come on over. So this is Shane, and he's going to talk about the TAPS program, which is a very critical thing because it helps transitioning veterans to get a footing. Oh,
other TAPS.
What's other TAPS?
This works for families of the fallen.
Oh, good to go. All right, go ahead.
I'm with Travis Manion, but I volunteer with another program called Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors, where their only focus is the family of the fallen. So basically, once a service member dies, the family has a certain period where they're pulled away from that environment, and there really wasn't any support until this program came along. And basically, there's two sides. You have an adult side, which works with the spouses, the loved ones, the mothers, fathers, and then you have the children, which are the critical part of this program. Whereas these kids have lost their mothers or their fathers. Some of them lost brothers, sisters, and it's basically they pair them up with active duty military members, and they have these called good grief camps where they teach these kids ways to cope with grief and ways to deal with it, because the civilian world, they don't understand what it's like for these military kids to lose. And so this program kind of bridges that gap and lets the kids know that they're still a part of the military community, they're still a part of that community, they're still loved. And then a lot of these children will eventually go on and they'll either follow in their father's footsteps or they will give back to the community in some way, and they take a lot from it. So right now we have kids who are coming back and being mentors to other kids who've lost someone, so they're building that social network. And it's, I can't really think of any other word to describe it. It's powerful. It keeps these families in the loop, and it keeps them going. And it's really, really powerful as far as helping them deal with that grief.
Excellent. Thank you, Shane. All right. Does anybody have any questions for Shane or about the TASK program and the significance of working with families that have lost a loved one to war?
Yeah, this is Bender. Are you only helping kids that has actually lost their parents or an older sibling, or do you also work with kids that are just secondary traumatized because mom or dad was traumatized in some way?
Right now, currently, it's loss. So it could be a loss of a mother, a father, it could be their brother, it could be their uncle, but it has to be a loss. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a military, it has to be a military loss, but it doesn't have to be in action. It can also be when they get back, and they also do a suicide as well. But as far as sickness, it's post-loss.
Okay. Does anybody else do something about kids that are secondary traumatized? Any of the other organizations, or does anybody work with kids in a more structured way?
There are a few programs. This is Bryan here. Within our network, there are a few programs. I'm sorry? Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm thinking of exactly who it is that does that. USO.
USO? Yeah, you want to talk about USO?
No, go ahead. I'm looking it up right now.
So yes, there's a lot of concern for the children of veterans. There's a lot of support for the children of veterans as well. And I'm not sure what you mean by structured. There are, for instance, Easter Seals of Greater Houston. They will counsel any member of a military family at all, from the children all the way up. There's many summer camps as well that take just kids of military veterans that have been traumatized, take them out and give them a big adventure and kind of teach them coping skills to deal with their parents' post-traumatic stress or anxiety or depression. So there are many programs out there. There are a few that are notable, Easter Seals, tons of summer camps out there that do intensive. Those are important because it's not just going to a counselor for 1 hour. It's going for a whole weekend or a whole week away from your family and just engaging in adventure, and also structured classes teaching how to stress coping skills, how to deal with their parent, educating the kid about what their parent has gone through. So those are critical, going through that long-term exposure to therapy. Those are very effective as well. Does that answer your question, Bender?
Yes, thank you. And I just got a link also. Thank you.
Yeah, I just sent the link. So that there are several different programs available, but USO is the most comprehensive one that we have nationwide that really helps military families when they are reintegrating from deployment.
Good to go. We have another question from Ina about suicides. Currently, veteran suicides. What is the stats at present? And so we actually just at the end of last year received a new report on veteran suicides, and they're actually going down. They're going down a little bit. The majority of veterans committing suicide are older veterans, not necessarily post 9/11 veterans. About 2 to 4 of the 22 a day, which has now gone down to 20, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah, but that's a very
low. Yeah.
You mean you're talking about suicide?
Yeah, suicide.
We should not use that metric. It's not real. Yeah.
But anyway, so the majority of veterans committing suicide are older veterans. A lot of them are Vietnam vets. The younger generation is going down, but there is an increase in female veteran suicides, which was kind of surprising to everybody. But that's the population is going up, rising in suicides. But there is so much support out there for veterans that are facing mental health crisis. There's a lot of money put into that here. The thing is, they just have to ask for it, and if they ask for it and they take it serious, it's very likely they can be healed from the initial root of the cause of their suicidal ideations. And so that's something that we're very proud of. As far as it's just a matter of getting the veteran to take part in that sort of counseling. We find that a lot of times, from my personal experience of dealing with leading veterans to counseling, the most effective time that a veteran will take part is once they've already tried, or they've survived a suicide attempt, or they're just at rock bottom, they've lost everything, and they're finally ready to take it serious. A lot of times a veteran might be suffering a lot, but they're not ready to take that big jump because it's very intimidating to face your demons and to face that trauma that's caused you to get into such a mess, you know. So does that answer your question, Ina? Yeah, it's a big surprise about the female veterans, but yeah, that's the population that's moving up. Let's see. Okay, all right, thank you. Do we have any other questions for the group here?
I have a question. Again, sorry to be such a bother.
No.
What about psychiatric service dogs? Who works with those?
Say again?
What about service dogs, psychiatric service dogs that helps people with PTSD and so on?
Right. So we have one of our organizations within the Combined Arms Network is called Paws for Heroes, and they train companion dogs, service dogs. So there's actually Texas is a very dog friendly place. Our city is very dog friendly, and there's a lot of dog lovers out there. So they're very well funded, believe it or not. There's a lot of organizations out there that train service dogs. There's a ton of them. So they're pretty popular. I mean, we'll see. What's that? Oh, we'll see service dogs in here very frequently. At least once or twice a week, somebody's bringing their service dog to Combined Arms along with them. But yeah, they're very prevalent and they're very popular here in Houston, or just really around the United States.
Okay, if anybody has some research that shows the success rate or can really make it visible how much they help veterans with, for instance, PTSD, I would be very interested, because it's a quite new area, a relatively new area in Denmark, and we're trying to do some stuff there, but we really need to get the funding. We really need to be able to document the results, and I know you guys in the US are much further down the road. So, but if anybody has some statistics or something, I would be very grateful.
I'd be happy to look into that for you. One quick thing about the service dogs, and this is me just being very, very honest and blunt with you guys. It's a bit of a double-edged sword. When I see people that have service dogs, as soon as they start getting stressed out, the dog will feel it, the dog will understand, and the dog will react. They're trained to kind of come to you and pet you and give you affection to change your mood, and it is effective. The only thing is that if you bring a service dog into an interview that is a PTSD, post-traumatic stress dog, you're automatically wearing your mental health issue on right in front of the public so everybody can see it. So sometimes, even though it's unethical to discriminate against a person with a disability, it's unethical to marginalize somebody that's facing PTSD. It does happen, especially when you have a service dog. In the media, there's been, from time to time, somebody with a service dog would be kicked out of a restaurant because they don't want the dog in there. They don't understand that by law they can have the dog in there. And then it makes it to the media. Now the restaurant owner looks like a jerk, and the veteran looks kind of like a whiner. And it can look bad, when you have one of those dogs. The only downfall is everyone knows that it's because you're struggling with mental health, which can be stigmatizing. So you kind of had to wear that mantle when you get the service dog, and just understand that people are going to know. And so you have to be okay with that. But it is a benefit to the veterans from what I've seen from my personal experience. But just putting that out there, But all right. Does anybody else have any questions?
How much time does it take on average to overcome PTSD? Is that so? We have addressed that question.
No, we haven't addressed it.
So Ina, the question is, how much time does it take on average to overcome PTSD? Well, that with professional help. Well, that's case by case basis. That's variant for every service member, every veteran. It depends on most cases, I would say, and I'm not a mental health professional, but I would say most cases are acute cases of post-traumatic stress rather than chronic, and they can be overcome or adjusted to the point of what we call the new normal post trauma or post combat. But I would say that really depends on the support system So once again, back to the root cause or the root importance of this meeting here is social events and family support, as that support system that each veteran and service member or soldier has is critically important to their recovery timeline. And there's the timeline it takes for them to successfully transition from military to civilian life. So if they have a very good support system, then they will progress and they will transition. They will accelerate through that reintegration process that much faster. If they have professional help for combat stress or post-traumatic stress specifically, that's only a great compliment in terms of a positive compliment to everything else that can be provided for a good support system. But then again, we've seen cases where people who had a good support system still struggled significantly with employment, with substance abuse and family challenges, and even suicide. However, I would say the vast preponderance of veterans returning from the military here in the United States are ready to go back to work immediately and learn a new skill, provide for their families, and make an economic and social impact on the communities that they return to. Only a small few of us have what I would consider, or what most professionals would consider as chronic issues related to a lot of these things. So it's really dependent on the veteran, the type of care that they're getting professionally, the type of support they're getting with their support system. Any link to check statistics on the suicide rate if possible. So there are a lot of different sources for suicide data. Some of the ones that have been kind of unfortunately reported all too often by both the Veterans Administration and the media are, I would definitely say, aren't viable statistics, because three of the largest states with veteran populations aren't involved in some of the reporting, which are California, Texas, and Illinois. So automatically, I don't think that data is as valid as some would have us believe. But some of the numbers that you've seen out there, the 22 veterans a day or 20 veterans a day that Bryan alluded to earlier, I think that number is only reflective of the preponderance of those veterans that are committing suicide. Unfortunately, as tragic as that is, our older veterans are usually typically white males of the age of 50 or 60, which is exactly the same as the civilian population suicide rate. So there's very limited or no correlation to military service for many of these individuals. Unfortunately, it's just something that happens to white males over that age range in America, that they happen to take their lives at a higher rate than any other population, unfortunately, be that if they're in the military or not in the military. So I would say that, obviously we have a problem with suicide and returning from war into our communities. And I think that there's been a lot to address that, both from the government and the nonprofit sector, to help fill the gaps when veterans return to the communities. But there's still always a lot of work to be done. Some of the data that I would point to is the American, I think it's the American Association of Suicide Prevention, of which Kelly Land, our executive director for Combined Arms, he sits on the board of the local chapter here, and that's for all civilians and veterans. But particularly, they have and collect data. They collect data on both sets of populations. The United States Veterans Department of Veterans Affairs also has some data that they record based on the users within the system. So that's only 50% of the eligible population of veterans access the official healthcare administration services within the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. So just keep that in mind when reviewing that data. Of course, the military statistics on suicides for active military are abundantly correct and clear, because they can track all of it, because the soldiers are still on active duty. It's just when they get out of that out of active duty, and that's where the tracking becomes an issue. And if it was directly in regard to their service. So I hope that answers your question. I would look at the military statistics, the VA statistics, American Association of Suicide Prevention. There's other NGOs that have done studies, other academic journals that have produced studies. And there's also there's also some work that's been written to kind of debunk or demystify a lot of the misinformation about American veteran suicide out there that the media and some NGOs use, unfortunately. So thank you all very much for joining us again today. Do we have any final questions or anything like that before we jump off and let you guys get on with your day and then continue on from here? Awesome. All right. Thank you guys so much. Thank you all to our presenters. And if you need us to connect you with any of our presenters, we would love to, so you can continue this communication one-on-one. Until the next time, thank you guys again, and looking forward to seeing you all soon. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
All
Bye,
right,
guys.
Have a good one, everybody.
Bye, John. Bye, Bryan.
Luck with you.